The tension in the apartment was suffocating. Days had passed since Hawaii, but the weight of her rejection still sat heavy on my chest. I couldn't even look at her without feeling the sting of that night. The way she had stopped me mid-proposal, the way she had said, "I hope you're not proposing right now. This isn't what I wanted." Those words played on a loop in my head, a cruel echo of something I had never expected from the girl I had loved for 6 years. Marriage wasn't just my dream, it was ours. We had talked about it countless times, about how one day it would be us. So I planned something special. A last-minute trip to Hawaii, the kind of destination that should have made up for the lack of extravagant details she had always imagined. I knew she wanted the grand proposal. The flower petals, the glowing letters in the sand, the perfect sunset. But time and circumstances hadn't allowed for all of that. I thought the breathtaking scenery, the two of us standing beneath the moonlit sky with the waves whispering against the shore, would be enough. It wasn't. The first night in Hawaii, the ring was in my pocket, burning against my leg, ready for the perfect moment. But then a stupid argument over a misplaced cocktail order killed the mood, so I decided to wait. The next day slipped through my fingers, parasailing, exhaustion, the sunset she had dreamed of disappearing beyond the horizon before I had the chance to make my move. That night, I took her for a walk along the beach, the silver glow of the moon painting the ocean in soft light. It felt intimate, beautiful, perfect in its own way. I started to kneel. She froze. "I hope you're not proposing right now. This isn't what I wanted." I stood up. My heart felt like it had stopped beating for a moment. My mouth went dry. There was nothing left to say. I turned and walked back to the hotel in silence, the waves crashing behind me like a cruel reminder of what had just happened. We barely spoke for the rest of the trip. I couldn't look at her, and she acted like nothing was wrong. When we got home, she stayed at her parents' house for a night. I thought maybe she needed time to think, to realize what she had done to me. When she came back, she walked in casually, set her duffel bag by the door, and grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge as if nothing had happened. "Hey," she said, twisting the cap off. I stared at the screen in front of me, pretending to be focused on a game I wasn't really playing. The controller sat loose in my hands, my fingers unmoving. I waited a long moment before finally speaking. "We're going to talk about this, right?" She leaned back against the couch, taking a sip. "About what?" My grip on the controller tightened. "Don't do that." My voice was sharper than I intended. "You know what?" She sighed, rolling her eyes. "If you're going to keep making a big deal out of this, it is a big deal." I cut her off, tossing the controller onto the table. "You rejected my proposal, and now you're sitting here like it's just another Tuesday." Her jaw tightened. "I didn't reject you. I told you it wasn't what I wanted." "That's the same thing." I stood up, my frustration spilling over. "You stopped me mid-proposal, told me it wasn't good enough, and now you're mad at me for being upset about it?" Her arms crossed over her chest. "You're twisting my words. I didn't say it wasn't good enough. I said it wasn't what I expected." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What's the difference?" I started pacing. "Seriously, explain it to me." She set her water bottle down and looked at me with exasperation. "The difference is that I wanted something memorable. Something that shows you put thought into it." I stopped pacing, staring at her in disbelief. "Hawaii wasn't memorable enough for you? I guess I should have rented a fireworks display and hired a camera crew while I was at it." She threw up her hands. "I'm not asking for fireworks. I just wanted something romantic, like we talked about. You didn't even try to make it special for me." Something in me snapped. "I didn't try?" I stepped closer, my voice low but sharp. "I planned a whole trip. I carried that ring around for days, waiting for the right moment. But sure, I didn't try." "You waited for a night walk on the beach," she shot back, her tone just as sharp. "You knew I wanted a sunset proposal. That's not the same thing." I let out a bitter laugh. "You think I didn't know that?" "I knew. But I was trying to make the most of what we had. Sorry it didn't meet your Instagram standards." Her face hardened. "You're so dramatic. This isn't about Instagram. It's about the fact that you didn't listen to me." "I didn't listen?" My voice rose. "I've been listening to you for 6 years. I've been doing everything to make you happy. And this is what I get in return." She shook her head. "You're impossible. I can't even talk to you when you're like this." "Oh, I'm the problem now?" I stepped back, my hands clenched. "You embarrassed me on that beach. Do you have any idea how hard it was for me to even get to that point? And you just threw it all back in my face." She didn't answer. She just grabbed her water bottle and stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I stayed in the living room, staring at the blank TV screen, too angry to even think about sleeping. The next morning, I woke up on the couch, my back stiff, my head pounding. She was in the kitchen, frying eggs and bacon like it was just another normal day. The scent filled the apartment, but it didn't feel comforting. It felt forced. "Are you going to sit there all day, or are you going to eat?" she asked without looking at me. "I'm not hungry." I grabbed my phone and headed for the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I turned on the shower, letting the water drown out the sound of her in the kitchen. When I finally came out, she was sitting at the table, scrolling through a magazine, her plate half-eaten in front of her. She didn't look up. "Are you planning on ignoring me forever?" she asked. I grabbed my keys. "I'm going for a walk." An hour later, when I returned, she was gone. A note sat on the counter. "I'm at my parents'. If you want to talk like an adult." I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. Later that night, she came back and we talked. Or tried to. But the gap between us felt insurmountable. "Why do you always make everything so black and white?" she asked, her voice tired. "It's like you can't handle any compromise." I gripped the table. "This isn't about compromise. This is about you not appreciating what I did for you." She exhaled sharply. "I do appreciate it, but you're acting like I committed some huge crime by asking for something different." I shook my head, the weight of everything pressing down on me. "I don't think we're ever going to see eye to eye on this." She didn't answer. And for the first time in 6 years, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, we never would. The moment she walked through the door, it was like nothing had happened. She dropped her duffel bag by the entrance, went straight to the fridge, and twisted open a bottle of water, as if we hadn't just shattered something between us. I sat on the couch, controller in hand, staring at a game I wasn't really playing, my mind still looping through everything that had gone down. She sat next to me, casual as ever. "Hey," she said, like we were just picking up where we left off. I didn't answer right away. My grip on the controller tightened, eyes still locked on the screen. Finally, I spoke. "We're going to talk about this, right?" She leaned back, taking a sip from her bottle. "About what?" I turned to face her, my frustration rising. "Don't do that." "Do what?" she asked, feigning innocence. I set the controller down, fully turning toward her now. "You know what?" She sighed, rolling her eyes. "If you're going to keep making a big deal out of this." "It is a big deal." I cut her off. "You rejected my proposal. And now you're sitting here like it's just another Tuesday." She scoffed, her voice growing sharper. "I didn't reject you. I rejected how you did it." "That's the same thing." "No, it's not." I stood up, running a hand through my hair, pacing the room now. "You stopped me mid-proposal and told me it wasn't what you wanted. And now you're mad at me for being upset about it." "You're twisting my words," she shot back, arms crossed. "Then explain it to me," I challenged, still pacing. She set her bottle down with an exasperated sigh. "I wanted something memorable, something that showed you really put thought into it. Hawaii wasn't memorable enough for you?" My voice was edged with disbelief. "Should I have hired a fireworks display? A camera crew?" "You're being so dramatic," she snapped. "This isn't about Instagram. It's about the fact that you didn't listen to me." I let out a bitter laugh. "I didn't listen? I planned a whole damn trip, carried that ring around for days, waited for the right moment. But sure, I didn't try." She threw her hands up. "You waited for a night walk on the beach. You knew I wanted a sunset proposal. It's not the same thing. You think I didn't know that?" My voice rose. "I was trying to make the most of what we had. Sorry it didn't meet your Instagram standards." Her jaw tightened. "You're impossible. I can't even talk to you when you're like this." "Oh, I'm the problem now?" I said, my anger flaring. "You embarrassed me on that beach. Do you have any idea how hard it was for me to even get to that point? And you just threw it back in my face." She stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed her water bottle and stormed off, slamming the bedroom door behind her. I stayed where I was, staring at the blank TV screen, too angry to even think about going to bed. The next morning, I woke up on the couch, my back stiff, my head pounding. The smell of bacon and eggs filled the apartment, but instead of feeling comforting, it felt off, like she was trying too hard to pretend everything was normal. "Are you going to sit there all day, or are you going to eat?" she asked, not looking at me. "I'm not hungry," I muttered, grabbing my phone and heading to the bathroom. I locked the door and turned on the shower, just to drown out the sound of her in the kitchen. When I finally came out, she was sitting at the table, flipping through a magazine like nothing had happened. I grabbed my keys from the counter. "Are you planning on ignoring me forever?" she asked, not looking up. "I'm going for a walk." I didn't stop to explain. When I got back an hour later, she was gone. A note sat on the counter. "I'm at my parents' if you want to talk like an adult." I crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash. Later that night, she came home, and we tried again, this time both of us calmer, but the tension was still thick. She sat across from me at the table, stirring her tea, and I folded my arms, leaning back against the counter. "Can we just put everything out in the open?" she asked. "Sure," I said. "Let's do that." She set her spoon down. "I don't understand why you're acting like this is the end of the world." "Because it feels like it is," I admitted. "I tried to do something special for you, and you made it clear it wasn't good enough. How am I supposed to come back from that?" Her voice softened. "It's not about being good enough. It's about you not listening to me. You knew what I wanted, and you ignored it." "I didn't ignore it," I shot back. "I did the best I could with what we had. Sorry if it didn't meet your standards." "It's not about standards," she said, shaking her head. "It's about effort." "Effort?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Do you have any idea how much effort I put into that trip? Booking everything last minute, carrying that ring around, trying to find the perfect moment? And none of that counts." "It's not the same," she insisted. "You made it about convenience instead of about me." "Convenience?" I slammed my hand on the counter. "I planned that trip because you wanted it. I proposed on that beach because it felt right. And now you're telling me it was all wrong because it didn't look like something out of a movie." She didn't answer right away, just stared at her cup like it held the answer. Finally, she spoke. "I think you're blowing this out of proportion." I exhaled sharply, trying to stay calm. "You think I want to feel like this? Like I'm not enough? You think I enjoy being pissed off every time I look at that damn ring?" She shook her head. "You're making this personal. It's not about you. It's about us, what we want as a couple." "Well, what I want," I said, voice thick with exhaustion, "is someone who doesn't make me feel like I'm never doing enough." We sat in silence for what felt like an eternity. Finally, she got up and walked to the bedroom without another word. That night, we sat on opposite ends of the couch, the TV playing something neither of us was watching. The silence was unbearable. "I don't know how we got here," she finally said. I exhaled. "Really? Because it seems pretty clear to me." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means we've been kidding ourselves," I said. "We've been acting like we're on the same page, but this whole thing proves we're not." She scoffed. "You're letting one fight define our whole relationship." "It's not just one fight," I said quietly. "It's what it represents. If we can't even agree on something as basic as a proposal, how the hell are we supposed to agree on marriage?" She closed the book in her lap. "So that's it? You're just giving up?" "I'm not giving up," I said, my voice hollow. "I'm being realistic." "You're throwing away 6 years over this," she whispered. "I'm not ending it over this one thing," I said, staring at my hands. "I'm ending it because this shows me how different we really are." She didn't argue. She just left. It's been a week now. The apartment is quiet, lonely but peaceful. And I don't know if I'll ever propose to anyone again.